Ladies and gentlemen, a new day dawns, and it's day 3 at E3 2013. Joining me on stage is the very excited Pete Hines from Bethesda. We're going to be talking about The Evil Within. Yesterday we started off with Hohokum, a very sort of whimsical, delightful art experience. Now we want to terrify you and make you afraid to go home at night. Pete, welcome to the stage.
Thanks very much. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. The Evil Within, part of Bethesda's big lineup here at E3. We've already seen Wolfenstein: The New Order and Elder Scrolls Online on stage.
Yep.
Evil Within, different than all those games and kind of different than most games here at E3. I think it's one of the biggest horror titles we're seeing.
Yeah. Ultimately, it was an opportunity to work with somebody like Shinji, who's not only a brilliant game designer, but also very well known for his work in survival horror, and his desire to take the genre and kind of go back to its roots, to do something that's a little more pure survival horror, a little less like action.
Yeah, you're talking about Shinji Mikami, of course, and Resident Evil 4, one of his great works. I'm a big fan of Vanquish, but
yes,
we're going into seriously into the horror realm, and if you folks have seen any Evil Within footage, as you're going to see shortly here, gore and sort of grotesque creatures are kind of the order of the day.
Yeah, I mean, you get a mix. So there's definitely humanoid-looking things that are a bit like, okay, I can wrap my head around what that is, but then you also get the twist of like, what in the world was that thing?
Too many arms.
Yeah,
the angles did not compute.
Yeah, so it's a mix, and part of the fun of the game is alongside of Sebastian figuring out like what's going on. Where am I now? Where was I? How is this real? Was that real? I think the story is something we're not going to talk a lot about, but we want you to unravel, and these creatures and so forth. What do they represent, or what are they?
Sure. I mean, without going too far into it, let's just give people a foundation. You play as Sebastian because a lot of the horror experience is giving folks a reference point for where they are in the world and then just disorienting them completely.
Pretty much. So you play Sebastian. He's a police detective. He and a couple of his colleagues are called into a distress call at an asylum. He shows up there. Things are horrible. As
we see here, yeah. Some little hanging upside down.
He gets knocked out. This is all from the beginning of the game. He gets knocked out. And the next thing you know, he wakes up and you are hanging upside down in a meat locker with a lot of dead bodies, and it all gets much worse from there.
It goes downhill from there, as if that already wasn't bad enough. All right, so you mentioned earlier sort of, the survival horror genre of late has been empowering players with a lot of focus on action, with, throwing horrible things at them, but also giving them big guns and ways to sort of defeat that enemy. What is the action sort of focus like on in The Evil Within?
It'll be a mix. So in this first part of the game, you have nothing at your disposal. No weapons of any kind. It is basically you trying to think your way through the problems and challenges you're facing here. You can see the character swinging back and forth trying to grab the knife off of this other body so Sebastian can cut himself loose. But it is not okay, now I'm going to find something to kill this guy. It is, how do I get away from him? How do I get through this area into it? And survive. It is a game of limited resources, so even when you do have weapons and ammo, we want them to be limited in a way that you never feel powerful. You never feel like, yeah, I'm fine with whatever comes through that door. You always need to be worried about, like, I only have 3 bullets left and I have 1 health syringe, and like, how in the world am I going to get through this? So keeping you off balance, keeping you scared, making you feel a little helpless at times, but then giving you a sense of pride when you figure out, like, okay, I actually solved that. I figured that out. That was really cool.
Pride and overwhelming relief.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's an interesting sensation, though, because, normally in a game you pull out a gun, you get just maybe a smile on your face, like, all right, this is a solution. But in The Evil Within, you pull out the gun, that's like a last resort, because that's so precious, and you are in such a bad situation that you're going to need to use what little arsenal you have.
Absolutely, and it's a situation where, because the game is fairly dynamic, it's not like at a different part in this demo that I don't think we're showing today, Sebastian pulls out his gun and headshots a guy. Except in that particular case, the headshot didn't kill the creature, it just sort of shook it off and kept coming at him, and so that's unexpected. Oh, headshots don't always kill the thing.
No.
Headshot. Or you may shoot a guy in the leg to get him to go down, and then you have matches that you can use to burn the body so you don't use up your bullets. But a creature will sometimes play dead to lure you into coming up to throw a match on him,
to...
and then he leaps up at you and goes at your throat and scares the hell out of you. And so we want that unpredictability. We want that dynamicness to keep you off balance, so you never really know, like, what is the right thing to do here.
The right thing to do, try to get the heck out of this place. And who is this horrible lurching creature of Chainsaw?
Right now, he's simply referred to as Chainsaw Guy.
An apt title.
Perhaps not clever, but certainly apropos.
Oh no, that didn't go so good.
Not too good.
Or Sebastian.
One of the things you'll notice here, by the way, in this demo is that what you're seeing on the screen is the intended HUD, which means that there's a real lack of one. We pop up things like when how you need to crouch or how you need to swing, but there's no
back and forth.
Yeah, but there's not a lot of stuff up on the screen. We're really trying to create a very immersive game here where the HUD isn't, breaking the belief of what's really happening. So things will come up, they'll go away. It's done in a different aspect ratio as well. It's a cinescope ratio, so it's 2.35 by 1, so it's a little wider and shorter than you're used to, which again just kind of has a cool movie feel, but also actually has some gameplay effects as well, just kind of in how you feel in the game.
Trying to get in there. It's not the whole full screen window. It's a claustrophobic kind of sensation, a little bit.
And you'll find, especially in playing, a third-person game like this, that when you can't see as much of the floor, it's a little disconcerting. It's a little off-putting that, like, you just can't see, like, what it is you're stepping on, or like it does have an effect the more you play the game.
And that's sort of the camera framing is key to a horror game. It's a very powerful tool to create a mood. And we saw just then during the Chainsaw Guy chase, it remained in the sort of third person behind the character camera, but then for a second it switched to the front. What are you guys doing with camera angles to try to enhance that dread, that disorientation?
It's a game where it is all presented, over the shoulder, third person, but then there are moments where Shinji wants to take control of the camera to switch it so that, for example, if you're being chased down the hallway but you only ever show up from behind, you don't get an appreciation for how close the thing might be behind you, or those kinds of things. And so that's where Shinji time comes in, which is where Shinji goes through any particular level of the game and starts to tweak and fine-tune things, because you referenced atmosphere. Atmosphere is hugely important in a survival horror game, maybe more so than in most other games, where the sound effects, the music, the lighting, how black are the blacks, how dark are the corners, where does the camera pan to, and those kinds of things. Shinji goes through and is able to, with all his experience in making these kinds of games, add moments and add different aspects to the gameplay that really heighten it just a bit more, whether it's tension or excitement or whatever it is he's looking for in that particular moment.
I like that. He comes in and Shinji's it up like it's a verb.
There's literally like Shinji time built into the schedule for every part of the game, where it's like, okay, this is where we make it, and then this is where Shinji comes in and takes it up that extra notch. One of the great things about working with him is he is so involved in everything in the game. It doesn't matter how minor or what part of the game it is. He wants to see it. He wants to give his input. He has a very specific vision for the game that he wants to make, and he's really hands-on in all different parts to give it that special something.
Very cool, and very great opportunity for you guys to work with such a great game designer. Looking at some questions coming in, folks. As in the past 2 days, we are taking questions from twitch.tv/GameSpot. There's a chat there you can join. Also, if you tweet to hashtag GameSpotE3 or join the GameSpot comments, I'll be taking your questions and asking them all throughout the day. So today we've got Zodaz stream kicking it off with a question about traps, like that alarm that we saw go off that alerted Chainsaw Guy. Is that something you're going to be able to disable or be, sort of spot in the environment as a way to remain undetected or unassaulted?
It depends on the situation. In that case, that's not as much of a trap as it is an alarm.
Yeah.
We think of traps as bad ways to die. And there are a lot of those in the game. Traps are a big theme of the game, and they are things that you are going to have to encounter and get through. They are also things that you're going to be able to get your hands on and use against your enemies, whether it is luring enemies into an environmental trap that exists and using it against them, whether it is in in the demo that we have, there's a point later on where we show off some of the combat that Sebastian picks up some mine traps that he's able to sort of manage a much larger horde of creatures coming at him than he could with just his pistol, and set them out in sort of strategic locations and kind of create a choke point where he can take out numerous guys and not get overwhelmed. So traps both that you're using and that you'll find or come up against are a big theme in the game.
Interesting. Okay, and that's an interesting way of making the game, bringing more action into the game, but still making it that kind of, I am vulnerable, I need to be very careful about the kind of way I engage these foes. That's the situation you described is obviously a taking them on type situation, but here we see basically running. And is there a lot of that faux evasion during the game?
Absolutely.
And trying to sneak by and or just flat out flee?
Yeah, absolutely. You're gonna run in this game for sure, and it's intended. You're gonna come across any number of situations where the smart choice is to run. And maybe you don't realize that the first time until you die badly and go, oh yeah, I'm totally unprepared to deal with this. I got to do something else. There must be a different way through this. Or it may be something that you start to get a better sense of, where you're better able to quickly assess, this is what I have at my disposal, that's what I got to deal with. And the smart thing here is to run, or to hide, or to use evasion, or to create a distraction to lure an enemy or enemies over this way so that I can go this way. Those kinds of things. We want you to be scared, and we want you to also be able to feel like you can think your way through a problem rather than shoot your way through a problem every time.
That's an interesting shift of focus, and I think that's core to what you're talking about in terms of this survival element. Survival is not about defeating all your foes. It's not a conquering horror game.
Right.
It's, I really just want to get out of here because this place is so messed up.
Yep.
Folks are curious to know about the different creatures you encounter. I mean, here's Chainsaw Guy. Obviously, he's a massive individual, but still humanoid, as you were mentioning earlier. If folks have seen any other footage of the game and trailers, there's tentacles and all sorts of much further out there kind of stuff. Can you talk about some of the creepier things we might see that aren't shown in this little bit of footage?
Yeah, the one that you're referring to, I guess you could call her female, multi-limbed thing. I don't even know if we have a clever name for her. We're still working on we're still working on the clever name for creatures part. Right now it's more about get it into the game and make it work.
Identify it. Chainsaw Guy's fine for now.
It says what it is, yeah. But so she's this horrific aberration that comes at you with multiple limbs, and it's when you see it in the game for the first time, it's absolutely terrifying. You get a teeny tiny glimpse of it in the trailer we put out, that thing that comes at you through the hole in the door. But the idea is that he's more of a kind of a bossy type creature. But when you see the other humanoid, they look like they're people gone badly.
Yeah.
And then we switch, so you have those as kind of your standard fodder enemies to come up against, but then lots of horrific things that you intersperse all throughout the game. And again, it is a big thing of what's going on, what are these things? Running the trailer now, you get a glimpse of Boxman. There's the there's the horror we were just talking about. Boxman, who's the guy with the safe for a head with the barbed wire around it. Barbed wire is a big theme in the game because of all the use of traps, and you'll see it on creatures as well. So we definitely have a lot of a variety in the enemies. Every time we have a team meeting where those guys bring us up to speed on what they're doing, and they show a few examples of creatures. I think we almost 100% of the time reply, what is wrong with you guys? What in the world is going on in your head to come up with that?
You kind of push your chair a little bit further away from them. You're like, oh, all right, and there we get a glimpse of that that lady-esque abomination thing.
So lots of variety. I would not have any concerns about whether or not you're going to be horrified or scared in this game. I think he's pretty much got that nailed. It's really, between now and next year, all about the pacing, And important to note, we are making a game which needs to be fun.
Yep.
So this is not just supposed to be like a let's see how many times we can scare you over this.
We're going to scare the crap out of you and just kill you over and over again.
You need to be scared, but you need to be having fun. You need to be, getting that thing you get out of games that you don't get from most other forms of entertainment, which is that sense of pride, that a sense of accomplishment that I did that.
Yeah.
I helped him survive. So, making it fun and horrific is a balancing act to make sure you don't go too far one way and not enough of the other.
Well, hopefully Tango, GameWorks, and Shinji and you guys can collaborate, get that balancing act all set for next year, you were saying?
Next year on PC, Xbox 360, Xbox One, PS3, and PS4.
All right, Pete Hines from Bethesda, thank you so much for kicking off the show today.
Absolutely.
With the horrifying Evil Within. Hopefully I can forget that because I will have nightmares. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back soon with over-the-top absurdity in Saints Row 4.